These times astrologically where certain things happen and it speaks to a very clear and consistent astrological theme. So the second half of this month, starting on the 20th, we have the Sun entering Aquarius, Pluto joining entering Aquarius, and then the ruler of that, Uranus, also stations direct within a week. This is a very clear and focused evolutionary theme focusing on the Aquarian Uranus archetype.
Which is always about our liberation, right? Our freedom from what is known automatically brings us into what is unknown, what is unfamiliar. But it's not necessarily unfamiliar to our evolutionary consciousness. It's unfamiliar to our conditioned patterning.
And thus, with all of this happening at once, we want to take into account when these strong Uranian energies emerge, there's often a sense of anxiety or a feeling of nervousness as if everything is changing, and it's because it is. And like Michelle was just saying, this is just relative to our own conditioning patterns. So there is something emerging now that is pointing to a new way. I mean, Aquarius, one way of thinking of it, it's a new way of thinking, literally, because the old way reflects our conditioning. So there's a way of orienting to our experience that is a little more elevated, a little less attached, meaning a little more open-minded, a little more inclusive, a little more broad-minded. And that's what's beginning to open up for the second half of this month. With that as well, Jupiter, who also just stationed direct, is moving straight towards Uranus. So we want to see the larger context. I think it's going to join Uranus in April. So this tells me very clearly the next few months are this growing and expansion, and Jupiter is always going to give clear vision, clear sight. So there's a very clear theme unfolding right now, which is not just this revolution, this liberation, this elevation of consciousness and seeing, which also might be a little uncomfortable. There's also a perspective that we're all gaining right now. There's a growth in vision, a greater capacity to sort of see the dynamics more clearly. And I think it's all about the state of mind that we're cultivating. What are we willing to let go of? What are we willing to loosen our grip on so that we can really see the larger picture more clearly? That's what's really going on right now for the next few months.
It's interesting too, because the timing of all of this, right? It's after the sun squares the nodal axis, which is that crisis of consciousness. It's kind of the tipping point of where we've already realized the exhaustion of the way things have been in our own conditioning. And then all of a sudden the sun meets Pluto and Pluto meets Aquarius. Not for the first time, right? We've been in this territory before, but for the first time with Uranus direct, and the moon at the same time makes a conjunction to Uranus. So both our solar purpose, our light, our awareness of life itself, and our emotional body get brought simultaneously into the new way of orienting at the same time. It's kind of like, okay, all systems go in this new way, and then I think the next several months will be the integration of that in our emotional body, our nervous systems, our relationships, our financial choices, our energetic choices. But it was all leading us somewhere we've already been prepared to go.
Well said. The fact that Uranus is stationing direct in all of this can't be emphasized more. Can be emphasized, could be emphasized, couldn't be emphasized enough.
Can't be emphasized enough.
You know, because whenever a planet, and so like right now at the making of this video, about 10 days before this ingress and a few weeks before the stationing, we can say Uranus is sort of approaching that turning point. So that's always going to be an internal movement where there's something that is becoming a deep point of self-reflection and inquiry. The entire retrograde journey, of course, is bringing us to face what are the conditioned patterns. So the issue with Uranus retrograde in Taurus can be the sense of disconnect or dissociation. This life doesn't feel livable. I'm not in touch with my inherent value. I don't feel connected to the greater potential, or I'm doing these things, but it doesn't really feel like it's what I want to be doing or what wants to happen, right? So there's a space opening up right now. And I think with this Uranus stationing direct over the next few weeks, it's really inviting more silence, more witness consciousness. We're just here spontaneously making this video. I had this strong urge to rearrange my desk. Same room, I've made everything. Also the same room where Michelle makes all of her stuff and her art. But I'm just constantly needing to like move the energy. So I've never faced this angle before. And that in a way reflects, there's a, change your location, change your mind. There's a statement in the Talmud, Shinoi makom shinoi, forgot the rest of it, right? The environment is so connected to our own state of mind. From a Taurian point of view, it's learning how to just really kind of have that sense of flow and movement. The challenge with Taurus is stagnation. So for me, it's like in this instant, there's a symbology in moving my desk, moving things around, creating more space behind me that reflects my desire and my soul draw to create more spaciousness and broad-mindedness in my life.
Well, and with the Taurus, Uranus sort of sudden upheaval energy, the image I get is that it's like a volcano in a way. There's this inner eruption of energy, of life force, of power that comes from within us. But that was building there under the surface all along, whether it was building through discontent of internal or external circumstances in our lives, living in ways where values were out of alignment, being in relationship in a way where parts of ourselves were being suppressed or denied or out of connection within connection. That inner eruption is going to push everything up to the surface that's in the way of us feeling more connected to that central channel of energy, of source. And once that happens, right, it changes the landscape. Like in Ari's example, the whole room has been upheavaled and disrupted and changed. But there are ways we can do this without creating isolation, separation, disconnection from one another. And in choosing to express, the desire, the need, the impulse that's within us, and recognize that there's safety to ground that within our own environment, and that need also reflects something that's actually desired by the environment itself, right? The change in the landscape is desired by the earth, and it affects all the other beings in the same way once the lava expresses itself. But in this case, like, this room needed that change as much as Ari had the desire for a change in the space and the orientation. And in the support of like expressing that need, I shared an idea of how it might express what could be possible just from my own awareness, and that opened the space for things to change.
Yeah, it was collaborative. I came up with a desire. I didn't have a clear sense of how or what, and she just had this idea, and I went with it. So I'm so glad you said all this, because the essence of these archetypes are collaborative, are inclusive, are about togetherness, and this is such an important piece, because especially with Uranus stationing direct in Taurus and Jupiter moving up there, with all the strong Aquarian energy, the thing that can be magnified and emphasized right now is that sense of alienation and aloneness and disconnect, where we don't feel in connection to the larger flow of community and togetherness. And that's what happens when we don't feel a sense that I can be myself and have all my core needs met and actualize and walk the path that I'm here to walk, right? Like to be what I am, fulfill my function. When we don't know that we can do that and that life actually supports us to do that. So a big teaching, and I think a deep healing in this process, is to actually meet two things. I mean, it's fundamentally about there is a supportive, friendly, inclusive life beginning to blossom for us, but also meeting the very places that feel non-supportive, non-inclusive, disconnected, and realizing it's not so much about the truth of it, it's more so that's the very thing that's healing. And all the thoughts of I'm doing this alone, or I have no connection, or I'm not being supported, right? Like all of that is just pointing to the very threshold where there's a liberation and healing happening. The teaching of Aquarius is fundamentally, we're looking at the intelligence of life itself, the fractal nature of all things small and large size scale. So we're freeing up our minds so that all of our relations and the things and the what's in our life are coming into clearer, more authentic alignment with what it is as a reflection of their true nature. Like the isness of life wants to be unimpeded by our own fears and conditioning. It's an inherently harmonious kind of energy. And so that's why Aquarius is always evolving towards new ways of living, more community. But the essence of it is we're ever approaching the truth of the greater ecosystem of life, which is fully inclusive within itself. There are no conflicting thoughts in the mind of God.
It reminds me of something I've been working with a lot lately, which is creating spaces of inclusion and belonging. And if you imagine yourself as a soul on this planet, it's very easy to find and be identified with ways of feeling like I don't belong here. I don't fit in here. I'm different here. I'm this or I'm that. And if we have spaces in our life where it is assumed you are called here, you belong here, and you are meant to be here exactly as yourself, exactly as who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then it's simply about that process of remembering, which we're all doing. We're all figuring out in our own ways and remembering who we truly are. And this opportunity that we have in the space of Aquarius, in the space of Uranus, is actually to break free from who we've known ourselves to be more of who we are in a space of unconditional belonging. And in that space, then who we are becoming can also, oh, this makes me want to cry, can also be received in a space of total love and authenticity.
Who we really are as we liberate, as we wake up, is loving and giving. Like our higher nature is to see the truth of everyone. Our higher nature is to be grateful and to be appreciative and to want to give. It's like it's not some sort of like abstract generosity. It's like it's natural to want to be helpful. Like, how can I help? How can I be helpful? And we get confused, we get caught up because, well, but I need to make money, but I have these relationship expectations, or these, right? There are all these little, and they're just working its way through our own confusion to get to the truth, which is just very simple. And that's something that I think we all learn as we walk this path, that we're just arriving at a place where we're not interrupting or getting confused about this natural attunement to supporting one another and to being inclusive. And that's, I think, the threshold that we're on with how amazing and beautiful life truly can be on this earth journey, as we all more remember and reflect that to each other, this higher, more natural, beautiful way of being.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Now,
Yeah.
now that we're here and we got your attention, thank you for watching. We're doing a retreat together in France. So Michelle had this vision to go to France. I'll just talk about the retreat. Before this thing that we're going to be doing as a family, we're offering a one-day retreat, a call to love, Pluto desire, and the return to source. And we're going to be sharing our teachings and transmissions on this topic, really going deeply into some of the teachings that I think are just like some of the most important parts of our own ongoing reflection and learning on the soul path. And it's our first time doing something live / doing something live together. So this will be in France on the 3rd of February, and you can check out our website. It's registrations on Michelle's website.